Clestine.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to Healed Whole Called. This is Wendy Melrose, and we are going to talk about fun things. So sometimes the very thing that feels like rejection is actually a redirection. There are moments in life when you realize you've been faithful, responsible, and committed, and something deeply feels misaligned. When you've done everything right, but something in your spirit keeps whispering, this isn't it. Today's guest knows that tension personally. Clestine known as a global I'm getting this all mixed up. This is why live sometimes is a little tricky. Known globally as the Purpose Coach. There we go now. Began her career as an engineer. She built the life, showed up, and did the work. But just 2 years in, she knew in her spirit she wasn't an engineer. What followed wasn't instant clarity. It was 6 long years of prayer, 6 years of asking God, what is my purpose? While watching him use her heal and guide others, and feeling silence when it came to her own direction. And then the day came when everything shifted. After 8 years in engineering, during the season of massive layoffs, Clestine was the only one released on October 27th. I don't know what year. We'll have to get it from her. But it was, what? Her birthday. Womp womp. But what looked like loss became revelation. What felt like an end became a commissioning. And that moment launched the purpose-driven work now impacted women around the world, helping God's daughters walk boldly in their divine identity. So if you've ever felt stuck in something that looks successful but doesn't feel aligned, if you've ever prayed and wondered why heaven seems quiet, if you've ever failed and it's too late to pivot, this conversation is for you. Welcome, Clestine.
Good morning. Oh, hello, everybody, because I don't know when you're watching this. Thank you, Wendy, for allowing me to be here. I'm just so excited to have this dialogue with you. So the first thing I want to do is my parents gave me a unique name, and I love my name because it's so unique. I have never met another one with my name. And so, but everybody wants to call me Clestine, and it's not Celestine because there's no E in between the C and L. So I always tell people, think of a hard K, and then it's going to be easy for you to get it. So it's actually Clestine.
It's Clestine.
So go ahead and say it with me. Clestine.
Clestine. Ready, everybody?
Yeah, there you go.
Awesome. Sorry about that. But I do. It's a beautiful name. So we're gonna turn back to those engineering years. When did you first realize, I don't think this is who I'm meant to be?
So what's interesting is as a little girl, I always wanted, would teach my dollies and teddy bears. So teaching was always in me. That's what God put in me from the beginning of time. But I made a switch in high school because I said teachers don't make a lot of money. So I decided to do what I was good at, which was math and science. And I went into engineering. And I was in the engineering for 8 years. And then 2 years into my 8-year career, I realized, oh my goodness, I really am not an engineer. I don't like it and I'm not passionate about it. And I always say X marks the spot, right? And so the spot where God wants you is you got to be good at it, right? But passionate about it as well. Mm-hmm. Right? Good and passionate. I was good at math and science, but there was no X there because I wasn't passionate about math and science, right? And so I had to find what I was good at and passionate. And I was good at teaching. I was good at speaking, coaching, helping people to find who God called them to be. That's what I'm good at. That's what I live for. I can do that without thinking. It's just second nature to me. It's just natural for me, right? And so for me, I feel I have the best job in the world, and that's what I want to do, is to help other people find that, listen, this is who God wants you to be and not that thing that you chose, right? So I had to go through my struggle so that I can help people to not go through theirs or to stop continuing in theirs.
That's awesome. So for the 6 years while you were praying, when you prayed for 6 years, while God was using others, using you to help others, what was that season like internally for you?
That is a great question. It was a lot of searching. I will say that season was my most intimate time with the Lord. By then, I was living. I was still in Massachusetts. The last 2 years of my 8-year career, God moved me to North Carolina, and this is where my spiritual hearing went so deep and wide and sharp. I
Mm-hmm.
hear God like you and I talking. It was so intimate. It was so intimate. And so he made things super clear because he was redirecting me to the path that he has for me.
Mm-hmm.
And God will do that. We see that in his word, how he did the burning bush for Moses, right? He grabbed his attention. He had Abraham come out of his tent and look up and see the stars to grab his attention and to remind him who he called him to be. So God will do that for each of us, give us that burning bush experience to let us know, hey, you are mine. And after that 2-year period, at the end of it, that's when I got laid off on my birthday, y'all. Got laid off with 117 people, and they had 4 layoff dates, and I was the only one laid off on October the 27th, which is my birthday, right? So it was like God was saying, hello, you really got my attention then. I have something better for you.
It was a birthday gift
It
that you weren't expecting. And what, if you don't mind me asking, what year was that?
That was in the year that I got laid off was 2000. 2000.
Oh, 2000.
2000.
Because
Mhm.
that's like,
And
was it the early 2000s or was it 2008 when everything went so?
it was 2000, and it was about 8 months before I quote unquote answered the call because I was still going through that revelation season. And finally, God, well, one of the challenges was he started to tell me he wanted me to move to Florida. And I'd already told myself for many years I would never live in Florida because that was just for retired folk. So I would hear this whisper every day, Florida, Florida, Florida. And it was this whisper that I had every day that I would just ignore because I knew I wasn't moving to Florida. But God always wins, kind of like the Jonah thing. And finally, I'm like, okay, God. But then I came up with another excuse as to why I couldn't go. I'm like, I've been laid off for 8 months. I don't have any money. And he's like, do your taxes. So I did my taxes and I got the biggest return I've ever gotten. So I was able to hire a truck, tow my car behind it, and drive 10 hours from North Carolina to Florida. So you could give God all the excuses you want. You could give him data, to stack up against your excuses to give you proof that you cannot do what he's telling you to do. And he will he'll be like, this is what I want you to do, and we're going to do it together.
Wow. So, I don't know. I mean, I always say that I wouldn't want to move to Florida because it's, hot and humid, but I would love to be closer to the ocean. Being, 10 to 15 hours from the ocean is a real unfun. But now that you did do the move, how have you seen him? Because you finally said yes to him. How have you seen him move in ways that you didn't expect?
Just how he has opened, doors for me as far as the clients that he's brought to me, the platforms that he's allowed me to speak on, the download that he gave me for my signature program, which is called the Sold, SOULED, Out Method. And that download came the year my father passed away. My parents used to visit us in Florida,
Mm-hmm.
and they would snowbird, and they were doing that for about 5 years. And he passed away while he was down here.
Mm-hmm.
And so I went back up with my mom We flew his body up, went back up with my mom to Boston. And I stayed with her for 9 months. And during that time, the beautiful thing is now, if you've got a virtual business, you can do your business anywhere. You can be on the beach with your computer and, and run your business. And so I went up there with my mom, and I remember God was just, it was just an intimate time with God. And one morning, he just downloaded a program. He downloaded a program, and I can be, sometimes I will instantly obey. And then there are times when if my mind isn't connected with it, sometimes there's a delay in my obedience, just like there was when he told me no longer engineering, but speaking. And so I wrote the program, and I had a couple of people join the program, and just confirm that I was doing the right thing. Everybody that joined paid in full.
Nice.
And I was like, oh, okay. But then my mind is so powerful. It took over. And so I went back to the program I was doing before, which is Godsparity. And God is patient. He's patient with us. About 2 years later, I remember one time distinctly hearing him say, I told you to do the sold out method. Just like that. And I was like, okay. So I went back to doing it, and I've been doing it ever since. So it's been a few years.
How have you, for the woman that might be watching that is interested, okay, so like, what is that method? What if they were to choose to join that program now? What would be the transformation they would experience by going through it?
So first of all, if you're not sure what God wants you to do, if you've been questioning, if you're in a career where you might be making great money, but there's a part of you that is still like, this isn't it, there's got to be something more, or you're burnt out, the sold out method is for you. Because the first thing that we do is I put you through a process where you grab the vision that God gave you, like the vision that He has for you. Like, what is that? And He has put it in everybody's heart. Some people, with the experiences we've had in life, or maybe how we've just proceeded in life, may have buried it under our own thoughts, our own feelings. And so this process helps to unpack the vision. And then once you have the vision, it's like, well, who is that for? Like, who are you called to serve? So we take a look at who you're called to serve, and what problem are you going to help that person solve? So we look at those things in the beginning, because that's important. So once you know that, now it's like, what do I do next? Well, what's next is, let's turn this into a business. And so we go through a process of you getting leads and learning how to do what I call a winning conversation, which is basically a consultation, which helps you to see whether or not that is a right client for you. And if it is, how you can help them, and help them to see that, listen, this is who you're being now. This is where you want to be. There is a big gap, and I can help you close that gap. And so we bring them through that process, and then invite them to their program. And so this is a process that I take my clients through. So it's basically identifying your genius and who your genius is for, identifying how you can help them, and then enrolling them into that process. And we do it together every week. It's a step-by-step process. And it really helps to peel back the layers and help to walk you into building your own business and coaching practice. And by the time you leave the program, you have clients, you have a program, and you're on your way.
So everything that, and I'm sure you also help guide them into having the courage to say yes to the Lord faster than you were able to.
Absolutely. I'm glad you said that, because part of the program is we spend a few weeks working on your mindset. Actually, quite a few. We start the program where we do some mindset work, and then there's in the middle of the program, we start really going deep with I have a proprietary mindset tool where we help you to really pull up those weeds of negative thoughts and replace them with the productive, positive thoughts that are going to lead you in the direction that God wants you to go. And so we do a lot of mindset work in that program, because one of the things I didn't want to do is to invite women to a program, tell them everything they need to do, help them walk through the program, and then they leave and their fears override them, and then they end up not doing the business. I just didn't want that to happen. And so mindset is a big part of my program, a big part of my program.
Yeah, mindset is the one thing that will either make or break, your business, anything that you choose to do in life. So,
Exactly.
False events that appear real is something that we need to just, one of the best things that I've been learning to do, in even my 48-year walk with the Lord, I'm still learning how to actually do it. But it's like, if a fear creeps in, I just hand it over to the Lord. Lord, I don't know what's going on with this. Here it is. You do it. I've got something else to do over here.
I love that.
And so it's been really helpful. And so I'm like, or if I sometimes I need to write it down. Like, Lord, I don't know what's going on with this client or this prospect. So I'm like, you know what's going on, because he does. I'm like, I'm just going to hand it to you. You handle it. And what's interesting, it's almost within 24 hours, 48 hours, they contact me. And so it's all about resting in his provision and his timing and not rushing anything. It's funny. There's people out there in the coaching world who will push for a decision quick. And it's like, I don't do that. I don't need to do that. They will say yes when it's the right time, if it's the right fit. I don't need it to make it to be the right fit. I want it to be the right fit, and I want it to be the right time. Because if you push them to make a decision sooner than they're ready, there'll be regret, there will be resentment, and then that's a bad way to start off a relationship.
Absolutely. I love it. So, yeah, that's great. That's great. Yes. And again, it's God is our partner.
Absolutely.
So he's doing some work, and we're doing some of the work.
Absolutely. Well, it does have to be that. It's like, he says this, we say go. We take that step. Some people want to see the end from the beginning, and the only one that knows the end from the beginning is our Creator. Exactly. So stop trying to be in his shoes, and you just do your part. Because if you had the end is so amazing, you would get overwhelmed with how am I supposed to get from here to here? Well, that's why he reveals it one step at a time. Because if he said, hey, you're going to be over here, you'd be like, what? No way. We're like, well, yeah, no way, because now you don't have the path to do it, because you're now your mind's in the way.
Right. Exactly. So here's, go ahead.
No, you go ahead. Go ahead.
So I was going to say, here's one way that I help my clients just kind of work through their thoughts. It's put a line down the middle of the paper, put fear-based on one side and faith-based on the other. On the left side, write down what your negative or fear-based thoughts are, right? Write down those fear-based thoughts. And then after that, write down your feelings. So it's TFA, basically your thoughts and your feelings. What are you feeling? And write just one word and write down all those negative thoughts, and then just circle one. And then write down the feeling that negative thought, that fear-based thought ignites. And then write down the actions that those thoughts and feelings cause you to take. It's going to be negative actions. It might be it causes you to pause, and instead of doing work, you scroll on Facebook for a whole hour, or you watch YouTube for 2 hours, right? Or you posting and commenting on people non-related to business for a few hours, right? You're
Yeah.
doing the distractive things, right? So what are those negative actions that are occurring? Then on the faith-based side, start from the bottom. What actions do you need to take today, right? What actions do you need to take? Do you need to make some calls, some sales calls? Do you need to do some inbox calls or contacts on social media? Do you need to do a podcast episode? What are the actions that you need to do today? And then so since we are reverse engineering this and starting at the bottom, the next thing up would be to look at your feelings. So if you take this action, what feelings are you going to feel? So if I take the action of, let's say, making sales calls and they're successful sales calls, or doing a podcast and a great podcast, I'm going to feel joyful. I'm going to feel excited. That's the feeling I'm going to have. And then you go up to the T line, which is the thought. So because you did that action, what is it that you were telling yourself that encouraged you to do the action? And it might be, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. There are some scriptures, many scriptures in the Bible that are great declarations to encourage us to take the actions that we need to take. And so that's a simple process that you can do to slow down those negative thoughts, to calm yourself down, to really expose them so you're aware of them, and then to say, okay, this is how I need to think. These are the actions I need to take. This is who I need to be, basically what you're saying, so that I can go ahead and be clear on it, so that I can go ahead and take action.
Yeah. Oh, that's so beautiful. I'd love for you to now share. So you've already written 2 books already, but not this story, which I find interesting. I'd love for you to share the 2 books that you have written, but then then we can go into, have you felt like this whole story has deserved its own pages, or has it felt too close or sacred to put it into a book?
You know what? I've been on many podcasts. You have great questions, like questions I've never heard before. I'm like, oh, you are so good. All right. So my first book, Nuggets of Knowledge to Get Unstuck. That book was written in 2006.
Okay.
Very simple book. It's like the longest chapters are like 2 pages, but most of the chapters are 1 to 2 pages. And then afterwards is a questionnaire where basically a coaching questions I ask to help pull things out of you. And I will tell you, everybody that I've read this book, I've had so many people respond and say, listen, one friend said, I read your book on the plane, because it's that short, right? It's like, I think 16 pages. I've read your book on the plane, and by the time I got to my destination, I was able to make the hard decision that I needed to make. That's what this book does, Nuggets of Knowledge to Get Unstuck, right? Then 10 years later, I wrote another book called The Art of Convincing Yourself, right? And this book has 3 questions that you need to say yes to in order to move yourself forward. And I share what those questions are, and I share basically why those questions are important, and I share a little bit about my story. So if you notice, the first book was 2006, second book 2016. We are now in 2026.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I guess my third book needs to come out, because I've been thinking about it, meditating on it. So I am going to be writing my third book. And one of the things I've envisioned is to have a section where I put my story in detail in the section, and then I just kind of unpack that and really help people take a look at who they're being, who they need to be, and how to close that gap so that they can walk in who God called them to be. And there's going to be a lot of mindset work, because if you haven't noticed, both books deal with the mindset and your purpose within the book.
That's awesome. So, one final question. If there's a woman listening right now who feels stuck in something that looks successful but doesn't feel aligned, and she's afraid that walking away would mean failure, what would you want her to understand about God's timing and her identity?
Well, God's timing is perfect. Our minds oftentimes don't align with that. When you're in that waiting season and that waiting period, it can be tough. I mean, I think about Moses, 40 years. He must have said, I messed up and God is so done with me. I mean, I know I would have been thinking that, right? Like, I killed somebody and I ran. And so now God's is like, yeah, you messed up, buddy. You're out. And I'm sure that's how he felt. But God was using that time to calm him down, because he had a temper. And God is like, I can't use that temper. And so God used that to calm him down. And so sometimes we feel like it's over. But during those seasons, it's really important to develop your relationship with God and to press into him, because he's going to bring the clarity that you need. He's going to give you the peace that you need and the trust that you need to just wait on him until he's ready, because he's not going to, I mean, you can, step out and do things on your own, but when he's ready, that's the perfect time.
No, that's good. Well, this has been a really great opportunity to just share. I'm glad that we got connected and that you were able to share your testimony. And anyone else who's catching this at the end, go back and listen to the beginning. And can they find their books on your website, or would they find them on Amazon?
They can find them on Clestine.com or Amazon.
Okay, so Clestine.com. I'm going to put that in the comments for YouTube. And then also, anyone else that has any questions, they can connect with you on Facebook or any of your other socials. And so I really appreciate your time. Everyone, remember, what you're going through does not define you, and that you are healed, whole, and called for a greater purpose in this. Talk to you soon.